Hey, small business people and lovers of good stories in general. Welcome to episode 19 of Small Business War Stories. Today, I talked to John Snodgrass. John is a VP of Business Development of Drawn Records, and it's actually kind of split into two. It's Drawn Records, which is a label, and Drawn Pressing, which presses vinyl records for not only Drawn Records, but other record labels as well. We kind of get into that a little bit in the show. But this was great. This was taped in Dallas, in the north side of town. They have an awesome plant that they gave me a tour of, where they showed me exactly how it is that they are innovating some of the processes around vinyl pressing so that you have less waste and so that you can do runs that are more economical for artists. And with the revival that vinyl has experienced, there's been a lot more demand for artists who want the records and want shorter, smaller runs. So they, with the machines that they have there, they're able to do that. And I met John originally through Dustin Blocker, who is a founder of Drawn Records. I met him here in Austin through a mutual friend of ours. And they have a great operation. They told me lots of really cool stories about what it means to run a vinyl pressing plant. This episode of Small Business War Stories is part of the Soul of America tour. And the Soul of America tour is sponsored by Badger Mapping, which is a #1 app for field salespeople on the Apple App Store. And people say they call it the quote-unquote secret weapon for top sales teams. And I use it personally to do my route planning as I was going from Austin up to Dallas, then up all the way to Michigan and back down for the Soul of America tour. And it worked very well for me. If you reach out to them at Badger Mapping and tell them that you heard about them on the Small Business War Stories podcast, they will give you 2 months free. The people that will give you 20% off are our next sponsor, Impact Crates. And the code for that is Muddy20 for 20% off. And Impact Crates has dog safety crates. So I was traveling all around the country with Muddy Waggers, my pup, and I wanted to make sure he was safe. I wanted to make sure that he was, that he wouldn't, nothing would happen to him if something went wrong. So I wanted to make sure that he was safe in his crate, and he was. It's a great, very well built, very light and very strong crate. They're available in many different colors. And you can go to Impact Crates and again use code Muddy20 to get 20% off. And we're also brought to you, the Soul of America tour is by Tecovas Boots. Tecovas Boots, they are very high quality Western cowboy boots that are sold to you at a fraction of the price of what you would pay at a retailer. The reason for that is that they do all of their manufacturing and they bring them directly to you. So there's no middleman or no store to pay there, and the savings get passed on directly to you. They make really high quality boots, and I wore mine every day in the Soul of America tour, and I got lots of compliments. They look very good. They're very comfortable. And obviously, every episode is brought to you by Proven. And Proven is a company that I started. That's why I say obviously. And it's a leading small business hiring tool. What we do is we make small business hiring easy. You don't have to go around posting to all the job boards. We make it easy for you. You can distribute your job to over 100 job boards. And thousands of small businesses across the country use Proven. There's a free trial, and the tool works very, very well. We're proud of what we're doing, so we'd love to have you as a customer. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to the actual show and episode 19 of Small Business War Stories with John Snodgrass of Drawn Records and Drawn Pressing in Dallas, Texas. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. And we are live here from Drawn Records in beautiful Dallas, Texas. And it is my honor to be sitting here today with John Snodgrass, Vice President of Business Development, and also the plant manager here at Drawn. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks, Pablo.
It's awesome to have you here. You just gave me an amazing plant tour where I was able to see how you guys make everything from starting from just the pellets to a finished record. So I'm really looking forward to learning about how this all happens. I'm a huge music fan.
Great, because we like talking about it. So you're at the right place, and you said a beautiful day. You're right. It's not hot in Dallas yet, so lucky you.
That is awesome. That is why we designed the Soul of America tour to be now and not in July.
Very good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So maybe to start off, tell me a little bit about Hand Drawn Records. So how did everything get started, and what do you guys do?
Okay, so really sort of twofold there, and if you'll see, some of our literature, or maybe just on our website, it says 2011. That's when the record label was started, right? Because we really weren't started with manufacturing in mind.
Okay.
Our founder, Dustin Blocker, started the record label. It was him. At the time, he was frontman for a band called Exit 380.
Okay.
And there were several other bands or friends of his in bands. He said, let's do this as a collective. Let's make it easier on everyone. We'll do the record label thing, and what does that mean? Well, we'll get each other on our bills. We'll try to get our music on the radio. We'll do things that an independent record label does.
Cool.
Dustin spent a lot of hours, a lot of miles on the road, and at one point, he got caught up in the vinyl industry coming back. I mean, it was all around us. He could see it.
Sure.
And really what happened there is he was ready to finally press one of his own records, right?
Okay.
And it was this mysterious process. And I think a lot of bands, if they're listening, will identify with this, a lot of artists. He knew there were certain places to do it. But how almost like at the Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain, right? You don't know what's going on or how to do it. What are these secrets? How much is it going to cost? What do I really get for that? Frustrating process, and I wish Dustin were here to give us the exact timeline, but I think it was 6-8 months, maybe more, before he got that record.
Yeah, wow.
During that time, he thought, wow, vinyl's coming back. There's got to be a better way to do it.
There has to be a better way. That's what I was thinking when you said that.
This is frustrating, right?
Right.
So there you go. So that was sort of the birth on the back of a napkin, if you will, the small business back of the napkin analogy for hand-drawn pressing, which would eventually become the vinyl manufacturing plant that we're sitting in today.
Great. So I was going to ask you this a little bit later, but maybe since you already brought it up, can you help me and our listeners understand a little bit better? So what is the difference between a company that presses vinyl versus a record label? How does that all come together?
Right. Well, clearly they can be, in our case, they're the same thing,
okay.
right? They're sort of two separate sides of the same company.
Okay.
Often a record label does what they do. They represent their bands, right? They try to do the best job they can for their bands to get their bands noticed, right? And we still do that.
Okay.
So
they do a lot of the promotion of the record.
Exactly.
Right.
Promotion, marketing, again, hopefully getting the band on the radio, getting the band on the road, getting the band on showcases, whatever that means, right? Social media is a lot of it these days too, because some bands are very good at that. You may know bands that are fantastic at making their art, right?
Sure.
What do they like to do? They like to make their art, their music.
Like to spend time in the studio, right?
That's right, or on stage.
Right.
But are they good at promoting themselves?
Right.
Some of them. Are they good with social media, which apparently we all have to be good at now? Some of them.
Allegedly.
Right. So, like it or not, right? So anyway, that's the label side, and we're still doing that, by the way. We put so much focus on the pressing side. We also like to remind people that there is a record label, and we've been lucky enough to be noticed for that as well.
Okay.
And we're proud of that, because manufacturing is awesome, because you're putting out this cool product for a band, this piece of art, not only the audio but the visual as well. But on the other side of that, the fun part is getting out to see live music as a big music fan, right?
Okay.
That's the fun side. That's the art side, right?
Sure.
Helping your bands. So we're still an active record label. The Observer Awards were nice enough to vote us best label in DFW again this year. So that was cool.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. We enjoy that. We feel like almost in the last year we've gotten away from that just a tiny bit.
Okay.
Trying to build this plan out, which I think we'll go into later.
Yep.
And it took a lot of effort, a lot of time. But we don't want to forget about our bands. We actually have a couple of new bands that we haven't announced yet. They're coming onto the label, and they're going to be on our roster very soon.
Very cool.
So we're going to continue to pay attention to that. But I think what we're here today is probably more to talk about the pressing side.
I want to understand the whole thing. So
Sure.
what I'm hearing is that you have the company split into two. There's the pressing side, and then there's the label side.
That's right.
And the pressing side serves your label as well as many other labels.
Absolutely correct. So if it was just serving our label, we wouldn't be busy, right?
Right.
I think we have, and forgive me, it's ebbed and flowed by one or two, but I think we have 6 or 8 bands on our roster right now.
Yeah.
Getting ready to grow.
I met some of them at the South by Southwest barbecue last week.
Yeah, you did down at South by.
Yep.
Getting ready to grow by 2. So love to service them. What we can do for them is get their vinyl pressed and get it done, or we can expedite it so they don't have to wait and play other games, and that's great. And that's part of what we can do for our bands. But really, if you think about hand-drawn pressing, it was open for the world.
Okay.
Sure, North Texas, Texas as a whole. We've had a lot of Austin clients. Nashville's caught on because it's tough waiting on some of the other presses. There's a big one in Nashville, which is a fantastic record press, but it's just they're booked up.
What's the average in the industry for how long it takes? You were talking about 8 months, and
Sure.
how long does it take you guys to put out a record, to produce a record? I guess physically produce a record.
Yeah. No, that's kind of a sore spot in the industry right now because people want vinyl, right? And whether you're a label or a band or maybe a management agency of some sort,
Sure.
depending on what kind of power you have. Let's say you're just an independent guy.
Right.
You may wait 6-8 months. We have a friend of ours that actually came to us and ended up doing the business here.
Yeah.
But he just had a quote from another manufacturing company that is domestic, that's stateside, and he just couldn't believe it was going to be 8 months.
Wow.
Just didn't seem fair.
So how long is it with you guys?
Yeah. So right now we tell people 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
We haven't hit that yet. In other words, we've done better.
Okay.
So we just had a nice order.
Under promise, over deliver.
That's what you want to do, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
You try to in this business. You one of the things you're trying to do, because we know there's not much of it.
Yeah.
Is offer some sort of customer service.
Yeah.
So if you're not on time, if you're there's a delay for some reason, giving the artist or the label a reason why, giving them an ear to talk to.
Be a professional. That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like what business out there doesn't have to sort of answer to their customer?
Well, a lot of people don't.
Right. I guess. And they're still in business. So we're trying to do that. Anyway, you ask. So 8 weeks, we had a really big order that I can't say who it is because it's for Record Store Day. So it'll be released on 4/22 for a pretty major label. And we hit 5 weeks on that.
Wow.
So
okay.
If we could always hit 5 weeks, that'd be great. That's not realistic.
So what is the entire production process? Maybe
Right.
So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about the history. But
Sure.
So do you produce the covers, right, and the record itself?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So you get all the what you receive from somebody is, I presume, they're masters.
That's
Are
right.
they digital masters or are they?
That's WAV files.
Do you work with tape ever or not?
We can.
Okay.
Yes.
Can. Okay. You can go
Yeah.
straight tape. Actually, that's Dustin and I were talking about. You can
Yeah.
go straight tape to wax, right?
That's
Actually,
correct.
the cool thing is tube to tape to wax.
Yes.
It never touches digital. And then they send you the art.
That's correct.
And what else do they send you?
Well, that's pretty much it. If you think about it, it's audio, it's music, and it's art.
Yeah.
And we can take it from there.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So we assemble once we have all those things, and theoretically, your art and all your printed goods are ready prior to the records coming off the presses.
Okay.
Once they're cooled, as you just saw in the back,
Yep.
we can go to an assembly line, a packing line, if you will, about 20 yards away.
Okay.
So
Yep.
it's
I saw that too.
really cool, and all the stars aligned. If your printed goods are waiting, they're done. They look amazing. The artists themselves have proofed it, not once but twice.
Sure.
Now you've got your records that have come off the machines. They look amazing. The labels are perfect. We approved them. They go through.
So you print the labels and the covers here as well?
Well, we don't print them under this. We have a printing partner.
Oh,
so we
got
get it all printed. We approve. The art goes through basically 3 rounds of sort of a QC.
Yep.
And then when the artist approves it and we have it printed with our partner, it arrives here. It's
Yeah.
sort of in queue, if you will, waiting. And
Got
so these records, once they come off our machines, they don't go through a long cooling process. Some of the older machines did.
Okay.
We actually do the cooling process as they're being manufactured. So theoretically, when they come off the machines,
They're ready to be put in a
They're
sleeve.
ready, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
They go on a spindle, a cooling rack, if you will, and you're ready to pack them up, shrink wrap them. Maybe there's a sticker, whatever
Yeah.
the artist wants. There's a couple of things
Sure
they can
thing.
or can't do, and you're literally put them in boxes by the people you just saw.
Yep.
And you're really sort of ready to ship them out the door, which we have the little shipping dock that you saw
Yep.
as well.
I saw that. Awesome.
So it's all about getting that time down, efficiency, and still delivering quality, right? So that's why I mentioned several times there the QC process. Several pairs of eyes and ears go into that before it's shipped out the door.
to make sure that everything's
Yep.
good. So this is a perfect segue to tell me a little bit more. There's been a resurgence in vinyl. Obviously, I don't know the exact numbers, but demand's gone up a lot. How did this process used to be versus what it is today? And how have facilities kept up? So you were talking about some older facilities where maybe the cooling process is longer. What are the other differences in how the process has maybe evolved and changed with this?
So it has and it hasn't.
Okay.
So you're always you go back 50 years ago and more, and you still had to melt plastic, or in our case PVC, into a form that you can then press it. You press the grooves into it, right?
Sure.
Because you have a master that's already, the music's cut into that master.
So let's go back there. So
Okay.
you start with a master,
That's correct.
And you cut. So is that process the same now than it was 50 years ago?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's become more efficient. I think, like everything in the process, it's become more efficient.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's a little quicker.
Okay.
The quality is a little bit better. It doesn't, it's less likely for a bad master to get out the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that happens in the industry.
It does.
Sometimes.
It does. And so sometimes we'll press a record, several copies of a record, and give the artist, every time I should say, you give the artist what's called a test press.
Yep.
Stop the machines, right? 5, 10, whatever it may be.
Sure thing.
We get to listen to it. The artist gets to listen to it. And generally, if there's a problem there, it's from that stamper. And again, a stamper is a term for a copy of that master. You want to keep the master on file, nothing happens to it, but the stamper itself is kind of it's nickel, and it's a flimsier, it's flimsier than a record because it's made out of metal.
So it's the negative.
That's right.
So it's a copy of the master. So the master is a negative of the record, and then you have a copy of the master, which is a negative of the record that you use to actually press the positive, which is the wax.
That's right. So I think you said that in the right order, but from the master, you peel off a negative of the master.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you have that negative, and you press it into our hot plastic or hot PVC. So once again, you're back to a positive.
Okay.
So it's almost like 3 steps.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So a lot of times when we're in that test press process, we'll find an audio issue.
Okay.
And typically, it's not because the press itself did something wrong, because it's basically just doing what it's told.
Yep.
It's pressing grooves into grooves into the valleys.
Yeah.
I should say ridges into grooves, really. But maybe on that stamper, that master stamper, there was something wrong with it. Maybe there was a burr of some sort, or something to cause a skip. We can catch it right there.
Yeah.
You've only made 5 or 10 copies, okay? And you're waiting for your own quality check and your artist.
Yeah.
And then you can stop it versus
Yep.
making 1,000 copies of that, delivering it, and then the artist being unhappy.
Yep.
So that's just one level you can catch it. But to answer your question where we started there, that was the way it was made 50 years ago. All we're doing different here, and there's a couple of other new presses in the world, is we're doing it with less mistakes, quicker. Quicker's not always better in every industry.
Sure.
In this case, if you can do it quicker and maintain quality, less mistakes, less rework, and so those two things together.
Why do you have fewer mistakes? So I saw in your video, there's a video where Dustin talks about the average waste. I guess I don't know what the correct term is, but I guess records that you throw away per batch versus you guys.
Yeah.
Why is it that you guys is better?
So a lot of that is due to the manufacturer of our actual machines, which is a company out of Toronto, Viral Tech. And the machines are technical enough. I want to stop here and be clear. Our machines aren't made by robots. They're still made with tender, loving care and human hands, right? By John and Gabe and me and Dustin and Alex. But it does have a brain, and it's the first one ever to have a brain. In other words, if the records are getting too hot, or if they're getting too cold and brittle, there's a lot of different things can happen. It'll stop. So instead of making 1,000 copies that aren't good, it stops and tells you, oh, you might want to adjust that.
Got it.
Boom. So
Makes sense.
as you're saying, less waste. So I don't know if this is a 100% accurate number, but for a while there was a stat out there that there were about 30 to 40% of the records coming off of record presses needed to be thrown out.
Wow.
Now what I say by thrown out is hopefully
remolten.
Reground, yes. Yeah. So we want to, it sounds pretty dirty if you think, oh, you're throwing away 30, 40% of your product.
Sure.
So we regrind that all into the same pellets and can introduce that and start over again. So that's good.
But that's expensive. I mean, you need energy,
expensive
time.
and time.
Yeah,
wasted time mainly.
Makes sense.
So anyway, our machines, if we're doing it right, and we're always tweaking, right? These machines are still fairly new to the world. We want to get that down to 1 or 2%. Versus 30 or 40%.
Yep.
We'll still regrind that. We'll still reuse that. There is a recycling element there.
Yeah.
But we won't waste a lot of time doing it.
Got it.
So that's the difference. And what does that translate to? That translates to money and time to the artist as well.
Cool.
So we can do a little cheaper for them. We're not wasting vinyl, and we can get it to them quicker. So I think that's that in the customer service thing. That's kind of what an artist wants to see.
Awesome. And are there other ways in which you're innovating and doing things differently maybe than they were done 50, 75, or even 10 years ago in terms of how you do your processes?
Yeah, like I said, most of it is the same. It's just we're trying to do it better and trying to do it with a smile.
Cool.
I think that's most of it. Maybe there'll be something in our lifetimes, but I don't know how you'd make a record.
Yeah.
Other than what we're doing now.
Makes sense.
There are some people with some wild ideas out there, especially now that vinyl is in demand.
Yeah.
Talking about some interesting ideas, getting rid of the boiler altogether, and we won't go into that because
Getting rid of what?
The boiler. Obviously, you've got
What's the boiler?
So there's a boiler outside the wall.
Okay.
You didn't see it because it was just past the wall.
Yeah.
It delivers the steam at a constant temperature and flow.
Okay.
So the records melt evenly,
Yep.
and you're getting the same consistent product.
Yeah.
It takes a boiler. The analogy that's been drawn for me, it's kind of like the same boiler. If you've ever seen like a cool craft brewery and they're always sending that steam into the vats as they're making beer, it's the same type of process.
Sure.
It has to be consistent. It has to be at the same temperature, at the same flow. And if you do that, you get consistent records, and that's what you want.
Got it.
So there's people talking about doing it differently, maybe using an electric current to heat versus these are things that are still years away, it seems like.
Okay.
What we have right now is the most advanced way to do it in the world.
Awesome.
We're not saying we're the biggest or the best or pounding our chest. We're just saying it's the most advanced way to do it that we know of right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you must see, because it's a music business, you must see some wacky things out there. What are some of the oddest, wackiest things that you've come across?
So maybe this isn't wacky, right? The colors, the color schemes. Of course, everyone wants to do something funky,
Okay.
and that's very, very possible.
Yeah.
It's time intensive. If you start basically taking the puck that makes the record, slicing it in half, trying to fuse two together.
Yeah.
Maybe one side's red, maybe one side is blue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun things you can do like that. There was a band, which I won't name. It probably wouldn't mean anything anyway to the listening audience, but that wanted to come in and put their own blood. I think they'd
Wow.
seen that or heard about that with Alice Cooper or Kiss, back in whenever that was. I think Kiss did something like that in the 70s.
They wanted to put their own blood into the wax.
Into the wax, right.
That's a lot of blood. How many records were they pressing?
Right, I don't know. I mean, I guess even if you just put a few drops, right, you
Yeah.
could technically say
Sure.
our blood was in the mix. We were really worried about that due to the fact that hot plastic goes through our machines,
Yeah.
and it just seemed like a bad idea.
Yeah.
So we said, let's table that.
Yeah.
Maybe someday in the future. Fun, but probably doesn't make sense.
Probably not
So that
the
was about
best
2
idea.
months ago. And,
That just happened.
yeah, it just happened. Right,
Wow.
right. So we didn't do it, unfortunately, but
Got it.
we're always up for funky stuff, and as we go, as the year progresses and we roll into next year,
Yeah.
I'm sure we're open. Right now, what we're trying to do is keep the machines on track, keep the time frames on track for artists and labels,
Yeah.
and just provide a clean, consistent product
Yeah.
that we can be proud to put out there, right?
Awesome.
Not warped, flat, no skips, clean.
Sounds good.
Great sounding records.
Cool.
That's what we want to do.
So things seem to be going really well for you guys. Given my experience, running a business myself, I know that things don't always go well.
Right.
So can you think of a time when maybe things went sideways, and how did you guys deal with it? How did you handle it?
Okay, so I don't want to I don't want to peel back the covers too much. The only thing I can think of really, because it is a fun product at the end of the day,
Yeah.
is that like any small business, raising money,
Yeah.
finding a way to make this dream a reality.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, none of us have the means, right? So we're a typical small company, and we spent many days in meetings like this with the paper out. Traditional banks weren't really open to it because, as you can imagine, in a bank's eyes, there's manufacturing, which they understand,
Yeah.
but vinyl records,
Yeah.
didn't that go away? Right?
Exactly.
So you can't really say, okay, come to me.
I own an 8-track machine and a reel-to-reel. So
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
I understand what you mean. Like a lot of people don't quite get it. So what did you do?
It's a labor of love, right? So you have to convince. We actually found what we did is we kind of cobbled several things together. We have some people here locally that trusted we had a good idea.
Okay.
So we borrowed money, private loans, and they're basically just trusting these three guys to pay them back. We did have a bank come in at the last minute.
Okay.
That also thought a huge music fan.
Yeah.
So was willing to forego the normal approval process.
Yeah.
So combination of that, and then having good
But
partners.
you got, this is actually interesting. So you got somebody else first, and then the bank followed.
Yeah.
So banks tend to behave like that, right?
Right.
So there's two things about banks. One is they don't like to lead.
Right.
And then the other one is
Yeah.
that bank, what is it, like they're the people that sell you umbrellas but close when it's raining.
That's right.
You know, and so
When you,
they
want to lend you money when you don't need it.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you basically got somebody else to believe in you, and then after that,
Right.
more traditional financial institutions believed in you.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that's really important for business owners to think about sometimes. Is like
Sure.
they if you think about, let's say you needed 3-4 investors, the first one is 5 times harder to get than the next 3.
Absolutely.
Because nobody wants to be the first one to jump in the pool.
Yeah. I don't care if you're making records or
For anything.
hammers or whatever. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was our experience. It was a long experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't always fun. I don't know if you've ever tried to refi a house or anything like that. You know, because I did this and I was unsuccessful actually. I finally gave up because there's just, it's hard to get money right now.
Yep.
Right? It used to be easier, and thus the banks had issues, right?
Well, that created the problems.
Yeah,
No, that's a separate podcast.
That's a separate, different podcast. Right?
So, what would you say is the number one lesson or piece of advice that you would have, like, kind of applying to small business in general?
Yeah.
Things like, what's the number one thing that you've learned that maybe you didn't know before you started working with Hand Drawn in terms of something that's been meaningful to you?
Yeah. The one thing I go back to, and I always tell my wife, passion for the business you're in has to trump a paycheck.
Okay.
Because you have to pay your debts, going back to the banks and the lenders, but you may not take a paycheck for a long time. But if you're having fun and you believe in what you're doing, and for us, it couldn't be truer. I don't know if it would be the same if I was, making another product. But for me, music is a passion, and for the other 2 owners, music is a passion. So I believe we will make money. It's just like any other small business, though. It doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
We can stay busy, and we are busy, and that's a good thing. But it doesn't always mean that it's going to be raining money anytime soon. So I guess that's my own. I'm not sure that I learned that. I think I knew that, but that would be my advice to other small business owners. If you're super passionate about it, and know that it may be a little bit of a weather the storm time period, I think you'll do okay.
Yeah, and the passion helps you get to those times when maybe you think
Absolutely.
that logically it makes no sense.
Yeah, in this case, when you throw that record that just came off the press onto the turntable for the first time and you crank it up in the plant, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
I may have not had a great day,
Yeah.
but I made this. Matter of fact, I'm going to take one of these home tonight.
That's awesome.
And spin it at home because it's this awesome. And maybe you never heard of the band before you guys got the order, right? Before we got the order. And you're introduced to this amazing sound you didn't know existed. That is a payoff in itself.
That is awesome.
So,
very cool.
yeah.
Where do you see Hand Drawn going in the next 10 years? So we're talking about making money, about profitability.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Hopefully.
passion.
Sure.
So there's probably like the whole making an impact. Where do you see everything going in the next 10 years?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, right? So music itself is a passion play, right? Those that think they're going to monetize it are often sorely disappointed. And I'm talking more on the label side now. But, if you can, well, for us, to answer your question, I think we're going to lean a lot heavier into our artist side, into our label side, making sure that is, if not front and center, at least given equal billing to the pressing side. I think a year from now, if we're as busy as we think we're going to be consistently, maybe another machine or two.
So you can expand the footprint back
Sure.
to where I saw. Okay.
Sure, the footprint is ready for that, and the build out has already been done for the most part.
Okay.
So plugging another couple of machines in is a reality right now.
Yeah, those machines don't look cheap.
They're not cheap.
Yeah.
No, they weren't giving them away.
Yeah.
I tried, but yeah, we've got the room for it in this plant. So and we've done a lot of the sort of the infrastructure work, and that's the tough part, right? All the plumbing, the
processes.
Yeah, the mechanical and all that. So if we're lucky enough, that would be it. What we'd like to see for not necessarily for us, but for Texas in general is sort of, wouldn't it be cool if we were sort of a hub for the manufacturing side of vinyl records, right? Not just us, but maybe there are other plants. Maybe you get a lot more of a spotlight on Texas in general. I think that would be cool.
Awesome.
The tide lifting all boats, not just ours. But on the other hand, we've got some ideas about sort of more of a marketplace mentality for artists.
Okay.
If you saw the big banner way up high above the machines, it says helping artists help themselves. So what goes along with that is we feel a lot of other things. They don't have to be our artists. We're not talking about artists on our label. We're talking about other artists. Can we help them? What do they need? What's hard to find or what's frustrating? From merchandise to tour buses to engineers to producers to, I don't know, there's a long list of things. Could we aid in that? Could we be a resource and one that's affordable?
Okay.
So maybe that's the next iteration. I think it goes nicely with the label, so we'll see.
That is awesome. Is there anything else that you want our audience to know about your business? Where can people find you? So you guys are hand drawn. That's HAND drawn DRAWN
Records.
2 words. Hand drawn.
No spaces, anything. Cool. So really three words. Handdrawnrecords.com.
Okay, there's a space between hand and drawn. That's what.
No.
Okay,
no spaces.
No space. Okay,
no spaces.
No space. Got it.
Nope. And then hand drawn pressing.
Okay.
Either way,
you're on Instagram. You're on the web and Facebook, Twitter.
Yes, we are pretty decent at social media, I think.
That is awesome. Yeah.
So
you guys have a great presence. So yeah, it's thank you so much for sharing your story today. It's been really inspiring, not only to sit here with you, but also to hear your stories back in the plant, showing me how this is all done. It's there's a little bit of a Wizard of Oz thing before coming in here. Like, how is it that this disc of wax shows up and makes my speakers go boom?
Right.
Now I know a little bit more about it, and so does our audience. So thank you so much for being on Small Business War Stories.
Oh man, you're very welcome. Thanks, Pablo.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.